It's Thursday, October the 25th. Lake level's 908 and a quarter, about the same as it was last week. Water temperature has actually been coming up. It's been so nice out, but we've got this big cold front came in this afternoon, so it ought to change that. But it's about 66 degrees this morning when I put in, but that temperature, when we got out of the water, it dropped 20 degrees in an hour. It went from just about 60 degrees to low 40s in a real short time there when that front came in. But anyways, I've got my new boat. I've got a new Z9. I've been really excited about it. We got to go out and christen it today. Been pretty impressed with it. We had pretty rough water. We had 30-mile-an-hour winds today, and it took the rough water real good. But the fishing, if you've been here the past week or two, it's been extremely tough, to say the least. Today was a little bit better. It might have been because that front was coming in. Now, I fished Tuesday. We had bluebird skies. I thought it was extremely tough. We were still catching some on a jerk, not a jerk bait, but a drop shot. Now, today we caught fish several different ways. We caught them early on a spook. We threw a spinnerbait quite a bit. We didn't have any luck on a spinnerbait. But we caught some on a football jig, fishing some Main Lake points, and a Carolina rig. And we caught some of them as deep as 38 to 40 foot. Now, since that thermocline has kind of broke up, some of the fish have gone extremely shallow, and some of them are really deep. A lot of my drop shot fish seem like they're a lot deeper than they were. They were anywhere from 38 to as deep as 45 foot. Talked to a buddy of mine today that was catching them on a wigglewort real good. He caught them early on a top water off some deep bluff end points, Main Lake timber secondaries. Now the top water fish we caught today were still way back in the creeks, just not getting that very many bites, And out there on the Main Lake should be the better deal. The Main Lake and secondary points with the water starting to cool down. See, normally, a normal year, that water right now would be 55 to 58 degrees. So we're about 10 to 12 degrees warmer than normal. And normally right at the end of October, 1st of November is when that wigglewort bite starts to come on. Well, he said they bid it for him pretty good today, and a lot of that might have been the front. But that's something that's going to continue to get stronger. And the A-rig, I've been catching some fish on the Alabama rig. Last week I was down in Arkansas, down in Bull Shoals, and I caught several fish on it down there in practice. And I've been throwing it a little bit around here. Now, I haven't been catching the largemouths like what we caught late last winter. And I think a lot of that reason is, I think a lot of them fish are just really deep and they just haven't moved up yet. I seem to be catching more Kentuckys and a few smallmouths on it than anything. And also catching some fish around some docks, anywhere from 8 to about 20 feet deep. And what I've been throwing around the docks is a 3/8 ounce pig sticker Snowden jig. Really does a real good job coming through the brush. It also fishes real well on the rock. And I've been fishing it with a little critter crawl for a trailer, and any of your greens and browns that work good. This is a green pumpkin here with a green pumpkin trailer. Here's a PBJ with a few strands of chartreuse in it, and it's also got a zoom critter crawl. Now, some of the skirts, some of them I trim them up real short. I call it, giving them a haircut up here by the head, so it's a little bit smaller profile jig. Other ones, I'll leave the full skirt on. Now, if you're fishing a little bit deeper water and you want the jig to fall faster, the less skirt material and the smaller skirt you get on it, and the smaller the trailer, the faster the bait's going to fall. If you want something that's going to fall a little slower, I'll leave the full skirt on and maybe even take a zoom speed crawl, a little bit bigger trailer, or like a pocket chunk. So it's got a lot of tail action. It'll slow the fall of the bait down. And I usually throw a 3/8, probably 95% of the time. Like I say, if I want it to fall faster, I go with a leaner, thinner skirt with a small trailer. If I want fishing it shallower and I want the fish a little slower, the same weight jig, I'll leave the full skirt on there and put a little bit bigger trailer. But this one's got a little green pumpkin with a little green flash in it. Green pumpkin purple will work. Where I've been fishing these is kind of back into creeks, back into pockets on the last couple docks where there's still about 10 to 15 foot of water. I'm working them, in behind the walkways, in around the slips and the boat docks. Now I'm still catching more short fish than I am keeper fish, but at least I'm starting to get bit around them docks. And I think as the water cools down, that should get a little better. Now the A-rig, since a year ago, since we've been throwing it, there's so many different configurations of it. And I've just been playing around quite a bit with different ones. This is a little bit smaller one, and I've got it set up with 3-inch grubs, and it's got spinnerbait blades on it. Now only in Missouri you can only have 3 hooks, so I've got 2 dummy baits up top here and then 3 with hooks. And with the dummy baits, you don't want to just cut the shank of a hook on a jig head, because then you got no control over where the ones with hooks are going to be. If you just take a this is called a little hitchhiker that you clip on, you screw your bait onto it with no weight, these will stay up top. So as you're working that Alabama rig, everything with the hooks is going to be down below. And that's where 95% of your fish are going to come from, is if you've got one wire, like this one's a little bit longer in the middle, 95% of the bites come on the furthest bait back or the furthest one down. Now another one I've been throwing, this is one I've been using, it's got no weight on the head. And if I'm fishing shallow, like say 2 feet to 15 foot, I like this because I can drop it down and not worry about it dropping too fast. I've got 1/8 ounce heads on it, so it doesn't sink too fast. Now the other one I'm fishing here, I'm trying to get this down. I'm fishing this like on the main lake bluff ends, the deeper timbered points, places where the top of the timber comes up, 25, 30 foot from the surface. Now this is one I was throwing in Arkansas because it's got 5 hooks. So to fish it in Missouri, I'd have to take 2 of these off, put a hitchhiker on. But I kind of mix it up. Sometimes I'll use all swim baits. This particular one, a lot of the bait down there where I was fishing was small, so I was using 4-inch grubs. And then on the long wire in the middle, I was using it's called a Kitech 3.8 swim bait. But like a Swimming Fluke Junior will work real well. And I just kind of mix up the colors. You can even mix up the colors of the grubs or even the different baits. You don't have to run the same baits on all the hooks. The whole thing with it is it just looks like a little group of shad coming through the water. And I think you get more reaction strikes. And where these fish are at different depths, what's good about the A-rig, this one here, it's got a 3/8 ounce weight on top. It's a pig sticker. But I can get to, if I count this down about 20 feet before I start to reel it, it's going to get the bait down about 40 foot. And this one I'm throwing on braid, so if I get it stuck down in the trees, I can get the rig back. And I also like to throw a fairly thin wire hook, so if I do get it stuck, I can straighten the hook without losing the whole rig. Now last year when we was paying $20, $25 a piece for these things, it was almost a must to get your rig back, because not so much were they expensive, but you couldn't hardly find them. Well, now you can buy them about any place. I think Sportsman Factory Outlets got a 5-wire for like $5.99, where you can get 4 of them for $20. Most everybody's anywhere from $8 to $12 on the A-rig. And the smaller one, I've been throwing it on just fluorocarbon, like a 15 or 20 pound fluorocarbon. It seems to work real well. And on the jig, excuse me, on the line size on the jig, it's whatever you feel safe with. With the bite as light as what it is right now, I'm throwing mainly 12 pound. Sometimes when it gets a little colder, I will go down to 10. The problem with the 10 and 12 pound line is some of the places we're throwing it in around these boat lifts, in behind cables, you can get yourself into trouble if you get hooked up with a good fish. But you got to get the fish to bite, you got to get them hooked before you worry about getting them out of where they're at. Now the fluorocarbon, I find if I get in that 8 to 12 to 15 foot, I got a little better feel as far as detecting the bite. If you're fishing primarily shallow, there's no reason you can't go 15 or 17 pound line, because you're going to detect the bite fine. Most of the bite, you're just going to feel the fish, pick the bait up and swim with it. But it looks like for the next week or so, we don't have any warm weather coming in, so hopefully these water temperatures should start to cool down. Like I say, the wigglewort bites should start to come on a little better, and also the A-rig. You know, most of us didn't even start throwing the A-rig last year till about mid-November, and you know, the water was a lot cooler than what it is right now. So hopefully these fish will start moving around. We'll start getting some of these other baits to working, and the bite to get more consistent. So until next week, good luck, good fishing.